Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is me, Jordan Young, back with another Certified Hood Classic. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how Nike are steadily unaliving the sneaker resale game. And I want to demonstrate this through a couple of recent acquisitions that I picked up. First and foremost, the Air Jordan 4 Bread Reimagined. So I picked these up recently off of eBay for under retail. I paid 183 or something pounds, all in with the shipping. And before some of you smartasses out there start rifling off in the comments about,
hey man, I thought you said you didn't like those, you were trashing those, what are you doing getting them when you said you didn't want them, look at this guy, he's a hypocrite.
Fuck off. At no point have I talked down to these or trashed these. All I've said around the release of the Bread 4 Reimagines is that I wasn't that fussed that I missed out on them because I still have the Bread 4s or the Black Cement 4s from 2019. I was happy to wait until they either restocked or they popped up on the resale market for under retail. I'll spare you guys a super in-depth review of them because I know a lot of you guys have probably watched a whole bunch of reviews and you're probably steady rocking your own pairs at this point in time, but I am nonetheless going to give you guys my thoughts. If you guys cast your mind back to the release, these came out on the 16th of February during All-Star weekends, and this was an appropriate date for this release because this shoe, the Black Cement Jordan 4, was first debuted by Michael Jordan during the 1989 NBA All-Star game. At the time, the response to the shoe was kind of mixed. Back in 1989, these were going for $110, which was $10 more than the previous Air Jordan 3. This shoe marked the debut of an important material, a synthetic leather known as Durabuck. Because Tinker Hatfield was in the business of trying to make each Air Jordan model that he worked on perform better than the previous, this synthetic leather material was chosen because it was more lightweight than the previous leather used on the Air Jordan 3. It happened to also be way more cost-effective and animal-friendly from the whole Nike point of view. Suffice to say though, as Father Time would prove, Durabuck is a horrible material when it comes to aging. One of the interesting and funny things that I've seen play out online around this whole release and around the shoe in particular is the sort of generational feud that exists in the appropriate naming of this sneaker. When these came out in 1989 and when they retroed in 1999, this sneaker was known as the Black Cement. In the same way that the Air Jordan 3 Black Cement sports a predominantly black upper with some hits of red and cement gray, so too did this Air Jordan 4 model. In fact, if you look at the original box, and even if you look at the updated box, it says black, fire red, and cement gray. It's only the slightly younger sneakerhead generation that have taken to nicknaming these the Air Jordan 4 Breads. Me personally, I don't care what you call them. So let's go through these Bread 4 Reimagines. I've got to say, the first impressions are really good. I actually do quite like the leather on the upper. I'm digging the shape. As you can see from this pair that I bought, these were used 2 or 3 times, but the condition is pretty good. Creasing is pretty minimal. Obviously, all the stars are still there. There's no drag. I think for 180 odd pounds, it's a pretty decent pickup. In comparing them to the 2019 Breads, the first thing that you notice is the updated old school shape. Much like the Air Jordan 3s, Nike and Jordan Brand have taken to remolding the new sneakers to make them look a little bit more commensurate with the OGs. And so one of the biggest striking differences can be found in the toe box. You can see with the Bread 4 Reimagines, the toe box is a little bit lower slung, it's a little bit more rounded off, whereas on the 2019 Jordans, it's a little bit more boxy. The front toe cap doesn't swoop around quite as much, and the 2019s just feel a little bit more boxy, a little bit more clunky. Obviously, depending on your own opinion and your own take, you're either going to prefer the leather or not. I definitely think it works, but I'll always be a sucker for the OG Nubuck or Durabuck material, given that's the material that MJ played in on the court. But if I'm talking from a practicality standpoint and a purely aesthetic standpoint, I've got to say I do prefer the leather. In comparing them to the Pine Green 4s, again, you can see the similar updated old school shape. The leather to the touch isn't too far off. It's supple, it's soft, it does feel good. And finally, comparing them to the recently released Military Blue 4s, again, you can see the similarities in the shape, but the quality in the leather I think is a lot better on the Bread 4 Reimagines. In terms of the fits and the comforts, I actually went a half size up just because this was the pair that was available for the price that I got them for. These are a US 11. I normally rock a US 10.5. True to size is fine. Having gone a half size up, I'm happy to have the extra room in the toe box, to be honest. I'm not going to be balling or doing any can-can kicks or any kung fu in these, so I can't see these flying off at any point. And comfort-wise, they are really nice. They're not quite as nice as the SB4s, but the comfort is definitely a lot better than the 2019 pair. In terms of the resale prices, man, these are out there for right around retail or under. If you're able to be patient and maybe watch a few auctions, or if you know a couple of resellers that are set on multiple pairs and maybe just want to get out of these, I'm pretty sure you can pick up brand new pairs for retail. And as evidenced by my own purchase with these, you can look around to find pairs that have been maybe worn 2 or 3 times for under retail. And because of the materials, because of how well these hold up under wear, they really don't look or feel that bad, even if they've been worn a few times. And I think that is absolutely brilliant, considering the 2019 pair just 2 and 3 years ago were going for like $400, $500, $600. And so how did we get here? How did we get to a situation in 2024 where an arguably better version of the OG 1989 Bred 4 Black Cement 4 is available for under retail? Well, I think part of it has to do with the fact that Nike have recognized that there is a big time appetite for these OG sneakers. People like me who are in their 40s are nostalgic for these pairs from back in the day. People my age that have kids, that maybe want to get their kids involved in the sneaker game, can share in the nostalgia with their family members. So that's why you see these types of pairs coming out in full-size runs. And then you get the newer generation sneakerheads that are keen to partake in the OG retro nostalgia. Couple that together with the fact that the shoe just looks sick. You've got a winning combination for Nike to prey upon this appetite, and that's what they've done in making these releases way more accessible and producing way more pairs. Nike stocks have been sliding in recent times. We know they've been laying off employees and shutting down stores, and so they're in a consolidation period where they're looking to pool their resources and focus on the stuff that they know is going to sell. And that brings me to my next pair that I picked up. These are the Nike SB Dunk Low in the Chicago colorway. These are from the J-Pack series that released a few years ago, and these have restocked primarily here in the UK and the EU. They were wheeled out exclusively through skate shop raffles last week and the week before, and they made it to the Nike Sneakers app. This pair I hit on for retail. I actually got exclusive access to this pair. There was also a shock drop for these as well, and I feel like most people out there that wanted to get their hands on these managed to pick up a pair. And the good news is, if you didn't, they are floating around a little bit like the Bred 4 Reimagines for just over retail, or right around that retail price point. The shoes themselves are really, really simple. It's the SB Dunk Low with the Chicago color blocking. It's a low pro release, which means it doesn't have the premium materials that you might find on a PRM shoe. They do still come with the Zoom Air. You've got the padded tongue and the extra padding around the collar. So they are better than your regular inline Nike Dunk Low, but in terms of like the hierarchy of SBs, these are on the bottom tier quality wise. The leather is absolutely fine. It's not the greatest quality, to be honest. The padding isn't quite so cushy as it is with other premium dunks, but listen, this shoe here is all about the colorway. Now, when I got exclusive access to these, I started to get this funny feeling, because you see, it wasn't that long ago that I got exclusive access to the Nike SB Dunk Low Big Money Savings. I then got exclusive access to the Military Blue 4s, and then exclusive access to these. Like the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've had more exclusive access on the Nike Sneakers app than I have had in the previous 5 or 6 years. And this to me tells of a signal of intent from Nike in the current moment. It seems like what they're doing is they're looking back at some of the most successful releases that they've had over the past few years, identifying demand in the market for certain styles and certain colorways, and bringing out retros of these models well ahead of schedule. Other examples I would point to is the Nike Dunk Low Veneer, as well as the Nike Dunk Low Plum. You can still find these models sitting. The other thing that stuck out to me a little bit was the fact that the recently released Air Jordan 5 in this all cream and white colorway didn't even drop on the Nike Sneakers app. It just went straight to the Nike app. To see a really clean colorway of the Air Jordan 5 not even make it to the Nike Sneakers app is definitely a reflection that the appetite for Jordan retros has certainly fallen off. And so the question is this a good strategy from Nike? Is flooding the market with some of its most popular cult classics relics or in-demand sneakers from 4 and 5 years ago a good idea? In one sense, yes, it is a good idea because it's going to give a much needed shot in the arm for Nike, who are seeing sales in other areas fall off completely. On the flip side, a lot of hype beasts or sneaker resellers are potentially going to be upset that these money-making sneakers from yesteryear are no longer profitable in today's market. I think from a sneaker collector's point of view, you and me, us, this is a great time. Military Blue 4s, this was an easy cop. Bred 4 Reimagines under retail. Dunklo Veneers was an easy pickup. They're still sitting. I could double up if I wanted to. Easy cop on the Chicago SBs. Like, these are all shoes that years ago I would have just given up on even trying to cop in the first place and resigned myself to the fact that resell would be an inevitability. The final point to make from a Nike perspective is they do run the risk of really running this stuff into the ground. Overproducing and oversaturating and relying too heavily on these once popular retros could potentially have a trickle-down effect where the consumer public at large just gets completely sick of Nike hawking their old models from the 80s and 90s. And with the lack of interesting innovation in other areas and the rise in popularity of other brands, I'm not sure whether or not this strategy from Nike is sustainable and a good move in terms of creating brand desirability moving forward. What do you guys think? Has Nike, in killing off the resell game, killed a little bit of their brand desirability? Or are you completely nonplussed, unfazed, and even happy about it because, like me, you can now pick up these awesome deals on sneakers that have come out in the recent past? Feel free to let me know down below. As always, guys, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video. Do me a favor and like it before you bounce, and I will see you on tomorrow's episode where we look back at the biggest sneaker stories from the past week. Take care for now, and peace.